All right, good evening. Tuesday, January 16th, 5:30 PM. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Frill,
Here.
Commissioner Laird,
Present.
Commissioner Milne,
Here.
Commissioner North,
Here.
Chairman Nicolason.
Here, please stand for the pledge.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The consent agenda has been published. I would entertain a motion with respect to the consent agenda items.
So move to pass the consent agenda.
It's been moved by Commissioner Laird to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Friel. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. The next item is pertains to board appointments. There's a request for a motion to rescind Amico Reuse Agreement Joint Powers Board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Heather, do you want to talk to this or you want me to? Doesn't matter.
I think you probably have more information than I do, Commissioner, so.
Okay. So initially, Mr. Getz was appointed to the AMCO Reuse Board, Joint Powers Board, through a consent agenda. It was at that time, when we passed that, it was the county's understanding that the city would be making the same motion during their meeting, their normal hearing. The appointments for the AMCO Reuse Joint Powers were pulled during that meeting, so we passed it, but the city did not. Through communications with the city, it was decided to review all the applicants for the positions, and interviews had been taking place with everyone that applied for it. And the the people were selected for the board at that point. Mr. Getz was not selected. So I believe it was Tracy, you wanted just Getz and not the full motion, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, that's correct.
So so the one appointment's still there, and we're good with that. We just need to rescind Mr. Getz.
All right. Thank you for the background. I'd entertain a motion to rescind the appointment of Mr. Getz.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Milne. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Friel. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of the motion to rescind, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the resolution, public hearing on the resolution 03-24 transfer of funds. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of resolution 3-24 transfer of funds. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, rules of the Natrona County Commission, and other applicable laws. Can we have a report, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for your consideration is Resolution 03-24. The first item is a transfer of funds from the balance sheet cash reserve in the amount of $134,984. And that is to be dispersed into the information technology training budget and also into the employee medical insurance budget. The first transfer, the $882, is for us. We hosted a Wyoming County IT Directors Conference here in Natrona County in October. So that amount is to be transferred back into IT's budget line for those expenditures. And then the transfer into the employee medical insurance is a budget correction that the clerk missed during budget approval. And going further down, $302,901.63 from unanticipated revenue. The first item is to the coroner personnel training. That is a reimbursement for some International Association of Coroner scholarships. The next item is into the field supply line in the coroner's office. That represents funds from the Blue Envelope Health Fund for an AED purchase. Moving down into the Human Resource and Risk Management account line, those are warm funds that we have received. And then lastly, from that particular revenue source is $288,740.80 into the MRG Sky West account line, which represents reimbursement from Advanced Casper and YDOT Aeronautics for the Sky West MRG. Moving down is $10,000 from the 1% cash reserve, and that is to be transferred into the county clerk 1% optional sales tax line. And that was for a budget correction for a trailer that the board so graciously approved for me to purchase for an election. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
You're welcome for the trailer. No, in all seriousness, are there any questions for the clerk? Any questions? All right, then at this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of Resolution 3-24, transfer of funds, to approach the lectern. Second call for those wishing to speak in favor of the resolution. And the third call for those who wish to speak in favor of Resolution 3-24, please approach. At this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to Resolution 3-24, transfer of funds, to approach the lectern. Any wishing to speak in opposition, please approach. And the third call, any wishing to speak in opposition to Resolution 3-24, transfer of funds, please approach. There being no one to speak in favor of or against Resolution 3-24, transfer of funds, I now declare the public hearing closed. I'd entertain a motion.
Move we transfer the funds.
Commissioner Laird has moved to approve Resolution 3-24, transfer of funds. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner North has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The resolution is approved. Thank you. We're now to the public comments section of the meeting. So any public comments?
Good evening, Rosemary Saban, Natrona County resident. The people come before you with thoughts, and we are dismissed unless we provide legal backing because you don't use common sense and reasoning. The laws of this country and the Constitution were written for the common man. It is not until attorneys have a hand in manipulation of the system, rewriting ambiguously so as to require their representation to pursue happiness in life, liberty, and justice. Early last year, January 17th is the best I can recall. Prior to the start of the meeting, Judy Jones brought up the suggestion that visual aids should be visible to the people viewing electronically. I noticed the last meeting, January 2nd, was finally conducted in accordance with State Statute 164403. Meetings to be open, participation by public minutes. D, no meeting shall be conducted by electronic means or any other form of communication that does not permit the public to hear, read, or otherwise discern meeting discussion contemporaneously. The interpretation of this statute defines open meetings as done at the same time and perceivable by electronically remote viewers. I would like to thank IT for their effort and work in rectifying this error and serve the residents of this county. Mrs. Jones was unaware that this was a Wyoming statute, but common sense guided her in knowing it needed done. In other matters of common sense, on January 9th, 3 of you met with SkyWest to discuss future funding of the MRG. Mr. North, thank you for your questions and your spot-on remarks and your firm stance on not funding this subsidy. Mr. Friel, I'd like your question, and I liked your question and very valid point. Sorry, I can't even read my own handwriting. On if Salt Lake City should be paying a share for the economic increase they benefit from. And no criticism here. But in the future, maybe we could ask a little bit further if they want to fill those seats and make money or just rely on welfare. Mr. Nicolason, it seemed at times you were on the right track with, I don't know, it seemed like you kind of were spoon feeding them a marketing strategy. Is that? And the mention that many residents of Natrona County are rural. Could you, what did you mean by that?
Are you asking me a question during your public comment period?
Okay. That could be misconstrued to mean that we backwards Hicks don't know about civilized things like working in business. The library. How much money does the Library Foundation have in their budget? Do we know? To qualify for charitable money usually requires that to be disclosed. Here's my suggestion with common sense being exercised. Keep the current library and make the upgrades. Sell the donated land, buy the Village Inn, as I mentioned before. It's listed for $725,000. Mr. Friel, maybe you won't answer this, but what do you believe that they would sell that for less than $725,000?
You don't need to answer that.
Okay. There's a new venue with a kitchen. There's parking lot. It's adjacent to the current library and slightly bigger than the health department lot. The health department is 14,300 square feet or 0.3282 acres. The Village Inn is 14,424 square feet or 0.33 acres. Natrona County Library is also historical and located at, I thought this was kind of cool, 307 East 2nd Street, Wyoming number. And I got your memo, Mr. Nicolason. Mr. North does not resemble a carrier pigeon, nor does he resemble a foul creature. Thank you.
What was that about? Any other public comments? Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commission. My name's Tony Locke. Am I doing this okay? I'm a Natrona County resident, 1438 Luker. Just a couple of real thoughts I want to throw out. These are not issues that I have researched in extreme depth, but I just wanted to throw out a couple of thoughts and comments for you folks. First is just related to the library. I know there's a lot of conversation around the library. I've had a lot of folks talk to me about this, and I just wanted to kind of throw out my thoughts. I know that there's a lot of history here. You guys obviously have that history, but I just want to say that I would like to just throw out my 2 cents worth. It says, please be ever so respectful and respectful of the public's voting record in the past on this topic, and I'd like to make sure that the commission doesn't, for lack of a better term, thwart the will of the people in some of the past voting. So I would just want to throw that out to the commission as recommendations and thoughts based on some of the feedback and thing that I have seen. And I'll not lie to this commission and tell you that I'm an expert on this matter. But I just want to throw out, please be respectful and cautious of that as you move down this path. Certainly now, especially, I know there's a lot of pressure on the individuals in the county. There's a lot of additional costs and expense with property tax, increased property tax, increased inflational measures on the people. Please be respectful with their money. So I ask that first. Second note, I just want to throw out, and I would just ask, I know I was in a meeting, I won't remember the time, but kind of when you did the last payment to SkyWest, I just want to again say, I would ask the commission, please be very diligent on us looking for a better solution, even if that means a better partner. I think it would be valuable for us to go down that path. It's a painful path. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work you guys have to go through to do that, and the airport has to go through. But the truth is, I think it's not the best spend of our money to subsidize a billion-dollar company with Natrona County funds. That's just one man's opinion, but I want to throw those out as areas of caution, at least thoughts and recommendations from my perspective. Again, I would really appreciate you guys' diligence on let's seek a better solution, and if necessary, let's find a better partner. Again, thank you for this time to speak. I don't know if you want me to stand for question or not, but
Any questions for Representative Locke?
I do. You know that the legislature passed that Aeronautics Act, and they pay 40% of the money we give the airlines. And I know you're in the legislature. Do you go down there and try to talk them into revoking that statute? Because I don't think we would have given them the money had you guys not passed that statute.
and that's a fair question, and that's something I can't sit here and tell you that I specifically am that familiar with, but thank you for that feedback, because I'll certainly dig into that in more detail. But thank you.
You're welcome.
In fact, that's a great, I really do appreciate that.
Well, I figured you might be able to do something about where the starting of this came from, which is the legislature, because you're in the legislature. I know you weren't there when they passed it, but it's there, and they're paying 40% of the money. You're part of the government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely, and I that's why I say hopefully what the words I spoke were not disrespecting you
No,
guys,
I
of course.
understand
And I appreciate the feedback, because you're exactly right. These are the kinds of things I do appreciate. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I should have gone through you, and I apologize for that, but thank you for that feedback. I do appreciate that.
You're fine. Commissioner Friel.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to add to that question, and maybe you or Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that during our conversation that the state's picking up 40, we're picking up 60, but it's usually the opposite. Is not the opposite? Okay, I thought that they said there was some in there that switched the opposite direction. Okay. So I don't have a question then. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one other comment for the legislator. The thing about this is that occurred to me the other day is that I'm told that the planes are about half full or half empty, however you want to say it. So this subsidy that we're paying, I'm thinking, why aren't we getting the seats that we're paying for? Because they're flying out, we're paying for those seats. That's why they're staying here, as I understand it. So maybe we ought to ask them, why don't we get those seats so that we can put people in them? We're paying for them. We're paying for the seats. That's essentially what it is. If their flight was full, my assumption is that they wouldn't be asking us for money. But there are a lot of business people that use that flight that have talked to me about why that flight is important to them. And so it's a difficult issue to weigh. I said when I voted for this, I would sustain it for 1 year, and the year is up. And so now I have other questions in my mind about the money, because I'm kind of like all of the commissioners. Where do we most need the money? Give it to that corporation or use it on things here in the county. But it has an effect on the county, so it's not an easy question to answer for you.
Are there any other questions for Representative Locke? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. I appreciate it, and thank you all for your comments. And I would, any education you can give me that where I can help, I would welcome. Thank you so much.
Any other public comment? Other public comment? Then we'll move to commissioner comments. Commissioner Laird.
The comments about the library, that is an issue for us. It surely is. All of our buildings in, not all of them, but a lot of our older buildings in the county need to be taken care of and money spent on them. And we have so much money to do certain things. A library, I think, is a very important thing for a community. Most communities, no matter how small, have libraries. My wife came from a town of 5,600, and you should see this really nice library. She spent her childhood there. I showed that picture at a meeting the other day. And I really want you guys to know that this is a good commission. They watch this money, and we have to make tough decisions to decide how to keep, our employees on the right pay scales and how much money it's going to cost to fix the jail with its roof problem and various other things. I don't think a lot of people keep track of that, but we do. And we know how much money we have in the bank and where the money came from and how much money we may get again this year. And I'm really more concerned, Mr. Locke, with what your legislature is going to do with these assessments. And I wish you would have heard the hearing this afternoon on the assessment on the Conroy building, a 100-year-old building, that the idea is to find out the fair market value of the building. But the mechanism the Board of Revenue tells the assessors they have to use is determine how much it would cost to build that building today, 100 years later, and then depreciate it down, which doesn't tell me anything about the fair market value of that building. And so I'm glad you're coming to these meetings, because this one's a big deal for you to take down to your fellows, because our people aren't being treated fairly. And then what's this deal? We were being told they're going to raise ag land 22%, and it's the Board of Revenue that's telling them they got to do it, not the legislature? I thought you guys were the ones that passed the tax bills. Now, what's really going on here? I wish you'd look into that for your people, because your people are getting hammered in this county and many counties. And we're not appreciative of these high taxes that aren't passed by the legislature. And I'm not appreciating the legislature putting some of this stuff off. We have elderly people that are in trouble around this county, and they're being asked to pay too much. And now the Board of Revenue has concocted some weird scheme to tell us how much their property will sell for, and they don't pay attention to it. In this case we had this afternoon, they had sold one floor of the building, and they knew what they got for it. And I think the assessment was 2 or 3 times more. Now, how does this happen? But you know where it comes from? It comes from the legislature. And then the legislature turns the revenue department loose on us, and nobody's overseeing it. And I'm incensed about it. So I'm like you, when you come in here and talk about wisely spending our tax dollars, I'm asking you to wisely look at the tax laws and what your Board of Revenue is doing down there. And I'm speaking for myself only here.
Thank you, Commissioner Laird. You're welcome. Commissioner North.
I'll keep mine a lot shorter. I do appreciate, Tony, you coming in today and what you guys have been doing down there. And I know that there are a lot of property tax laws that are being proposed a lot of bills, and we'll see where that goes. And I know in a budget session, it's a whole lot harder to get things introduced than it is in a regular session. So I do recommend that the citizens of the county watch and see where those bills go. And if you support them, contact your legislators. That's the way to get those pushed through. And that's the way to get things changed. And talk to them. I mean, those guys are no different than the rest of us. You know, we're all here to support the public. And that's what we're supposed to be here to do. And I'm a firm believer of that. And I think it's a key that anybody that's elected to office needs to be open to what the public has to say and listen to them. That doesn't mean that we're going to agree with everybody all the time, but we need to be able to listen and hear what they have to say and get a pulse for what's going on in our communities. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner North. Commissioner Friel,
I have nothing tonight.
Commissioner Milne.
I don't have much other than we are trying to do some cost savings as we can. Tonight's a good example. Everybody's cold in here, apparently. Just kidding. No, do appreciate you all coming in. Representative Lott, it's nice seeing somebody come in here from the House or the Senate. So if you can get the rest of them to come in, that would be good too. But thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Commissioner Milne. Road and Bridge has been dealing with the same roads and the same cold that we all have. I know they're out there working hard. I appreciate their efforts. Give them courtesy and the right of way, please. You know, with respect to the MRG, we asked for a Delta representative to come here, a SkyWest representative. I think it was Commissioner Laird that asked for that, and they said, okay. And they said, here's some dates in January, 2 months later. We picked one. It was publicly noticed. Unfortunately, Commissioner Laird, I think, had a personal appointment that day, and Commissioner Milne, I think
It was a medical appointment.
well, I didn't want to say
And
that.
I don't mind saying that. I mean, I had it for 3 months, and it would have been another 3 months, and they wanted me to do it now, and I'm still in the process of doing more of it.
Commissioner Milne was sick, so we only had 3 of us there, but we had some good discussion, and for facts, I'd encourage you all or the public to go back and watch that, and you'll see we did ask some hard questions, and we did ask for not only whether Salt Lake City could contribute, but whether SkyWest would participate in the marketing of these seats that it's trying to fill. We asked for an additional financial commitment from businesses here locally. And I know there are other things in the mix right now, and people working hard to get less of this or to reduce the county's burden, which I think is problematic for all of the commissioners, at least speaking for myself, and I know for a couple other commissioners. The amount is not going down, and SkyWest said, well, we had to double pilot salaries. We all remember that news last year, and we know there's some truth to that, but this is a challenging thing, and we hear from a lot of the public and people on both sides of the issue on the value of that Delta flight. We do know that it would not continue if it weren't subsidized. So it's a tough spot for us to be, because there are a lot of communities across this country that would gladly fork out the money for it. So it'll continue to be, I think, a top concern for the commission. You know, I appreciate you, Representative Locke, showing up. I know there's a lot going on for the legislature and the legislators. And it means something to me that you'd come tonight and share your thoughts. And I think I echo Commissioner Laird's comments. And I also echo that, you know, I'm fairly incensed with where we are right now with property tax. And yeah, we did hear that ag values are going up. And that's going to be a real burden to ag producers in the county. But we're all, not just the ag producers, but we're all tired of it. But what incenses me is the amount of discretion that the legislature has given the Board of Equalization and the Department of Revenue. They have basically unfettered discretion that then they mandate the county assessors across the state to implement their will. And then we as a county Board of Equalization are forced to basically be the bad guys without hardly any discretion. And certainly none as it relates to the interpretation of and the application of the laws and the rules and regulations. I think that there are specific tangible things, and I've been in touch with the assessor's office here, and I think they're trying to talk to other assessor's offices of things that aren't really swinging for the fence. They're not home runs, but they're things that will make a tangible difference on this mass appraisal system that we have. And so Representative Locke and our other legislators, you know, don't just say we need to change the Constitution. I think you need to look into it a little more deeply in terms of what the Department of Revenue and the Board of Equalization down in Cheyenne are allowed to do to drive this, what I think is a substantially unfair system that we have. It may be an okay system in principle, but the execution of it isn't. I'm sorry to go on and on, but I think Commissioner Laird fired me up a little bit. In any event, that's it for Commissioner comments. At this time, we'll adjourn into executive session pursuant to Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A9 and Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A2. Is there a motion?
So, go ahead.
Return to normal life.
Well, we have to adjourn into executive session.
Oh, we do, don't we?
Is that normal
Sorry.
life? It feels like it today. Is that a motion to go into
Yes,
executive
you should have seen the look I got from former Chairman Friel.
Okay. I'm going to take that as a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Milne. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
If it is acceptable, we come up with. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Really, I need to understand the
Anytime.
issue.
Yeah.
Okay. What day is that? Maybe one of those.
And rein in the,
So you do have.
I do, yeah. Of comps, because they're quote inbound.
yeah.
And so downstairs, not statewide, but downstairs. in the association.
Yeah.
So what that does is, you know, this mass appraisal system.